I woke to the crash of breaking glass, my heart slamming against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Stumbling into the hallway, barefoot on the cold hardwood, I froze at the sight. My dad, red-faced and heaving, a jagged photo frame splintered at his feet. Me and Josue, arms slung around each other on that foggy hike up in the Cascades, our smiles frozen in happier light. "You think you can just waltz in here and steal my boy?" Dad's voice cracked like thunder, aimed not at the empty air but at the ghost of someone who shouldn't have been there at all. Josue, gone now, but the echo of his betrayal hanging thick in the room. It was supposed to be just another rainy Seattle night, the kind where the city hums with that perpetual drizzle that seeps into your bones and makes you crave warmth from anywhere you can get it. I'd crashed early after a double shift at the coffee shop downtown, the one with the exposed brick walls and overpriced lattes that tourists flock to like it's the next big thing. Josue had texted me goodnight. A simple heart emoji, the kind that still made my stomach flip after 2 years of this quiet, stolen love. We weren't out, not really. Not to my dad, anyway. He was the rock of our little family, a retired Navy mechanic who'd hauled us from Tacoma to this creaky craftsman house in Capitol Hill after Mom bailed when I was 12. "Family sticks," he'd grunt over his black coffee each morning, his calloused hands wrapped around a mug that said, "World's okayest dad." I believed him, until that night. Josue and I met freshman year at Roosevelt High, back when life was all awkward growth spurts and stolen glances in the locker room. He was the new kid from East LA, transferred in with a duffel bag and a grin that could cut through fog. Josue Ramirez, tall, lean like a basketball player who'd rather sketch graffiti tags than shoot hoops, with skin the color of warm caramel and eyes that crinkled when he laughed, like he was in on some cosmic joke the rest of us missed. I was Isaiah Hayes, the quiet one with the thrift store hoodies and a sketchbook full of half-finished poems about boys who looked like him. Our first real talk was under the bleachers during a pep rally, rain pattering on the metal roof like impatient fingers. "You ever feel like you're drowning in plain sight?" he'd asked, lighting a joint he swore was just for the smell. I nodded, and that was it, hooked, line and sinker. We built our world in the margins. Late-night drives along the waterfront, windows down, Nirvana blasting to drown out the what-ifs. Picnics in Discovery Park where we'd lie on damp grass, fingers brushing accidental on purpose. Whispered confessions in his tiny studio apartment above a taqueria, where the scent of sizzling carnitas mixed with the vanilla candle he lit to make it feel like home. It was romantic in that gritty Pacific Northwest way, raw edges softened by the mist, our kisses tasting like salt from the sound and the faint bitterness of unspoken fears. But fear was the undercurrent, always. My dad wasn't cruel, not like the fire and brimstone types you hear about in those conversion therapy horror stories. He was just that blue-collar tough, with a faded tattoo of an anchor on his forearm and stories about shipwrecks that doubled as life lessons. "Men provide, Isaiah. They don't complicate." I'd nod, swallow the truth that loving Josue felt like the most uncomplicated thing in my world. That Friday, Josue came over after his shift at the community center, where he coached kids in mural painting. Turning blank walls into stories of resilience, he called it. Dad was out at his VFW meeting, the one where old salts swapped war tales over watered-down beer. We had the house to ourselves, rare as a dry spell in July. We cooked spaghetti, burnt the sauce, laughed about it, then curled up on the couch for a marathon of old rom-coms, the kind with meet cuties that never end in small-town judgment. His head on my shoulder, my arm around his waist, the weight of him grounding me like nothing else. "I love you, he murmured during a quiet scene, his breath warm against my neck. I kissed his temple, whispered it back. We dozed off like that, tangled and safe, the TV flickering blue light across the room. I must have slipped into a deeper sleep sometime around midnight, exhaustion pulling me under like the tide. Dreams came in fragments. Josue's laugh echoing off fairy horns, my dad's anchor tattoo bleeding ink into Puget Sound. When I jolted awake, the house was silent, too silent. The clock on the microwave blinked 2:17 a.m. Josue was gone. The couch empty, a throw blanket folded neat as you please. Weird, but not alarming. He probably caught an Uber home, didn't want to wake me. I padded to the kitchen for water, flipping on the light, and that's when I saw it. The back door ajar, a chill draft snaking in, carrying the metallic tang of rain on pavement. And on the counter, my phone, Screen lit with a text from Josue. We need to talk. Your dad knows. He came to my place. I'm scared. My blood turned to ice. Dad's truck keys were missing from the hook. I grabbed my jacket, bolted out into the downpour. The streets slick and empty under sodium lamps. Heart hammering. I sprinted the 6 blocks to Josue's apartment, dodging puddles that mirrored the fractured sky. The taqueria was shuttered, neon closed sign buzzing like a warning. Up the exterior stairs, 2 at a time, pounding on his door until my knuckles throbbed. It swung open, and there he was, Josue, eyes swollen, shirt untucked, looking like he'd aged a decade in hours. He choked, pulling me inside. The place was a wreck. Lamp tipped over, sketchpads scattered. One of his murals, a vibrant phoenix rising from ash, ripped halfway down the wall. He found the photo, Josue said, voice barely above the rain hammering the roof. The one from our trip. It must have fallen out of your bag when we were on the couch. I woke up to him standing over me, holding it like it was evidence in a trial. I sank onto the bed, the world tilting. Dad had come here? In the dead of night? What did he say? I whispered, dread coiling in my gut. Josue's face crumpled. He didn't yell at first, just stared. Said he'd suspected for months. The late nights, the friend who smelled like cilantro and cologne. Then he lost it. Called me a predator. Said I was poisoning you, turning you into something you're not. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette, the flame dancing wild. But that wasn't the worst. He told me about your mom leaving. How she found letters from some guy when he was deployed. His CO, turns out. Dad had an affair with a man. That's why she walked. He buried it, joined the Navy to man up. But it ate him alive. Seeing us, it cracked him open. Betrayal hit like a rogue wave. My dad's stoic, unyielding dad had lived this? Hidden it under layers of grease-stained flannel and half-finished model ships in the garage? All those lectures about provision, about sticking. They were shields, not truths. And now, in his unraveling, he'd lashed out at the one person who made my world whole. He threatened to cut you off, Josue continued, exhaling smoke that curled like ghosts. Said if I didn't end it, he'd tell everyone, your job, my family back in LA, the center. Make sure we both lost everything. Rage boiled up, hot and unfamiliar. I'm going home, I said, grabbing my keys. This ends tonight. The drive back was a blur, wipers slapping rhythmically against the storm. Dad's truck was in the drive, porch light on like a beacon or a trap. I burst through the door, dripping, fury lending me steel. He was at the kitchen table, head in hands, the photo frame pieced back together like a sad puzzle on the oak surface. Gray stubble shadowed his jaw. He looked smaller, somehow, the anchor tattoo stark against his rolled sleeve. Dad? I said, voice steady as I could make it. He lifted his head, eyes bloodshot, hollowed out. Isaiah, sit. We talked or fought, for hours, the rain a relentless chorus outside. He confessed it all. The stolen weekends in port towns, the guilt that festered like an untreated wound, the way he'd projected his shame onto me without even knowing. I thought I was protecting you, he rasped, tears carving tracks down weathered cheeks. From becoming me, lost, alone. I laid it bare too. The fear of losing him, the joy Josue brought that no deployment story could touch, the ache of loving in silence. You're not poison, Dad. You're human, and so am I. Dawn crept in, gray light filtering through the blinds, when he finally nodded. Go to him, tell him, I'm sorry, and that I get it now. The climax came not in screams, but in the quiet after. Me driving back to Josue's, pulling him into the truck without a word, and us fleeing to the coast. Hours of winding Highway 101, windows down, salt air whipping our faces. We stopped at a bluff overlooking the crashing Pacific, waves like whitecaps of unresolved grief. There, under a sky bruising purple, Josue forgave. Not just Dad, but the world that demanded we hide. We're not stolen anymore, he said, lacing his fingers through mine. I believed him. Back home, reconciliation was slow, humanistic in its messiness. Dad started therapy through the VA, awkward at first. Group sessions where vets swap stories of loves lost to don't ask, don't tell. He met Josue over coffee, not burgers and bravado, but real talk. Apologies traded like fragile heirlooms. Josue showed him sketches of anchor tattoos reimagined as lifelines, not chains. I watched them bond over Mariners games, Dad's gruff laugh thawing like spring snow. It wasn't perfect. Old habits die hard, and there were nights I'd catch Dad staring at the photo frame, lost in his own tides. But we built something new. Sundays with Josue's abuelitas tamales, pride flags fluttering from the porch come June. A family stitched from frayed threads. Loving Josue taught me that romance isn't grand gestures under fireworks. It's the grit of showing up after the storm, the thrill of a hand held in plain sight, the emotional rawness of saying, "I see you, all of you," and meaning it. Dad's unexpected midnight raid shattered us. But in the shards, we found reflections of grace. We're still here, in this rainy corner of America, proving that even anchors can learn to float.